get to it over the weekend.
Yep, no drama.
Dano, one thing I'd suggest is, yeah, it was generic, and I think it has to be as an opening gambit. But I think part of it is, most of your new blood coaches, your new dad coaches, are coming in cold at the 6s and 7s group, and they flow through to your 8s, 9s, 10s, and 12s. So I guess in my limited experience, maybe if you hived off 6s and 7s as a specific subgroup, and I think that's part of the problem you have. In a lot of those guys, they don't know who the players are. They're new to coaching. They're new to the coaching staff at RugbyWA. They don't know who you are. So they haven't built the rapport to come on, even though this is a very non-threatening, very open, very friendly environment. I've been in the coaching space for 8 years now. So I have the confidence to come here. I think you've got to break it down even a little bit further, would be one of the things I might suggest.
Good feedback, yep.
Mate,
Ian?
just to add, just to add to that, I probably agree with that a fair bit. Like, for whatever reason, I think new coaches are a bit intimidated, and like, obviously being on here, I don't see a reason why, but I think it's maybe a little bit more self-confidence and things. They're just not sure. Obviously, they're new to the game, like all of us when we were. We at the club early this year, because of that, we actually did the same sort of thing, but just when we got all our junior coaches together, just had a bit of a forum, and it was literally just getting guys in the room and having a chat. There wasn't, this is the way we're going to play, or this is what we want to do. It was pretty much just like this, pretty much in a nutshell, but just in a room, getting the guys in, having a chat. And it really broke the ice, because we got all our senior coaches in with our junior coaches as well. And then when we started talking about footy, they realised that, well, it wasn't much different to what, you do with a 10, 12-year-old and things like that. So when they seen how simple and generic we did things, in the senior level, they were quite surprised. And it was something that worked really well. We got really good feedback out of that. And as a result of that, we got all the coaches and had to put in a few ideas, and they come up with like a junior sort of playbook sort of template, not necessarily a playbook, but like a template of, basic coaching skills and things like that they wanted to see come through out of the kids, and as they progress through the ages and that. But again, it was really simple, but it was just good to get the guys in and have a conversation.
Yeah, look, I think it's often overlooked as well, that people tend to think, RugbyWA, they've got all the answers. Well, the actual greatest resource, if you're a new coach, is last year's coach. If he's still around and he's still in your club, then I think it needs to be thrown back on the clubs a little bit to do that, to have the sundowner, to have the icebreaker, throw a couple of slabs on and just have a few sherbets and have a chat. It's just footy. No magic to it.
Yeah, that's literally all we did, guys, and it worked well.
What about, at Basie there, Ian? Did you have much interaction with the juniors at the moment?
Look, I've had John McFarlane, sort of runs the juniors, and I sent him on information about this one today. Since I've come over from Queensland, I've run an academy for them for under 12s up, and I've spoken to the coaches below that as well, and I'm also coaching at Guildford Grammar as well. And I've got their preppies there with Sam Thornley. The issue for us to a certain extent is that, you're quite right. A lot of these dads just step in for the first time. They want to go enjoy it. They want to do something with their kids, and that's fine. A lot of them are time poor. So what you'll tend to find is they're either time poor and reasonably computer illiterate, or not time poor and over the top serious about it. So,
happy medium.
Sorry? Yeah,
happy medium.
No, they want to get underage to play like the Wallabies, and they're mad on all the rucking, and they've got underage playing patterns and different shapes and things like that. When all you really want to teach the kids is to pick up the ball and run with it and how to tackle. My thoughts on terms of something is you almost need, for the ones that are time poor, almost like a coaching template, almost like a You actually create their coaching plan for them. And they just follow their noses in terms of doing it, and some of the videos that Rugby Australia put up there are okay in terms of going through and showing them. So I would just give them the template and sort of say, look, this is how you do it. A good example of that is a few years ago, Rugby Australia put out a sevens coaching template, and it was called 7 Sessions of Sevens. So you could basically, do seven training sessions together and play a tournament. Something like that for the junior coaches, I think. I don't know what the other guys think, but some of the other coaches might have their opinion on it, but that'd be really valuable.
Do you think that's something that could be developed within the club, like from coach to coach? As you mentioned, Sam, the resources that coach that stepped up already, could that be somehow captured through like your session, Jack, where you got all the coaches together and the knowledge that those coaches have, and start putting that together like in an off season or whenever there's some sort of gathering of coaches, and start building that as a club, because then that language, the lingo is then club specific, if that makes sense, and it brings that culture through the whole club and integration. I don't know, like, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, that's important, mate. That was a real big selling part of the reason why we got together and did it. We come up with a common language from under 6 to seniors, and that wasn't dictated from the top. It was like when we got all the coaches in, what are we going to call this? If it's a catch pass or whatever it is, and that's just to break down the confusion as kids come through the grades, and also what we did is we picked a half a dozen common areas. So, like for example, when we're going to defend the ruck, like where are we going to put our guys? What are we going to call it? Are we going to call ABC 10, 20, 30? And we put that in our manual, so there is that consistency through, and that literally it's got the same calls, obviously, from sixes all the way through. Now, obviously, it's every age group has to. It's a very generic and basic template, but and every age group will obviously have to manipulate it to suit what their sort of age group is and skill level is and things like that. But that was a really big positive that we had come back from the feedback. It was, all right, now we're actually, whether it will be right or wrong, this is how we're going to coach, this set of skills or whatever. The other big one that come out of it is overcoaching. Like I was sick of going down and saying, guys spoke about it before about the patterns, like under 12s and 13s that are doing a set play and then they've got 8 phases of it. Like it's just like, guys, we're talking about 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds that just, they've got to get the basic skill first and let them enjoy footy too. That was a big part. We found that a couple of kids were probably dropping out because some coaches were that too serious at under 14s and that, wanting to win the World Cup, with a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
So we really simplified it. We sort of took winning off the table. We said, guys, from a board perspective, we're not necessarily worried in juniors about winning games, winning titles. We changed our KPIs. Our KPIs are on if the kids develop. So at the start of the year, if you've got little Johnny and he can't pass, left to right or whatever it is, and at the end of the year he can, well, to us that's what we based our KPIs off. That's development. So we wanted to really simplify things there, and we never really got an opportunity yet because we did that. We put all that together. We did that early February, obviously leading into what would have been junior season. So, but I think the guys some of the teams had like 2 weeks and we had to call it off. So we never got to see the outcome of it, unfortunately. Not yet.
Well, I'd agree with Jack 100% on the KPI point. My sole KPI as a junior coach is to have 90% of my kids come back next year because that's so much fun. That's it. Because retention in a minority sport here is just so important. And if they come back, we can build on their skills. The only other thing I would observe is, Dane, you mentioned doing this in the off-season. The problem, I think, is you lack engagement. We're still in a summer-winter sport dichotomy. Rugby is no longer a winter sport. We have pre-season 10s, off-season 7s, and we can all get too caught up in that, I think. But for most of the dad kids at the junior, sport sampling is so important. So you actually want your dads to go off and play basketball with the kids in the summer, or do nippers at the Surf Lifesaving Club, or do something. So when they come back to rugby, they want to. They're refreshed. It's their winter sport. So I think, as Jack said, you need to do it in pre-season. I don't think you'll get the engagement for that type of program, and maybe you will, but then maybe you fall into the category of coaches that Ian talked about, the guys that spend their, sad sacks like me who spend their waking hours thinking about rugby.
Yeah.
Nothing said about that, Sam.
I'm cursed with the bane of now coaching seniors. I think I'd rather be back at juniors at times.
I guess then. Oh, sorry, Sandy, you go.
No, I was going to say, Sam, it should be easier by now, shouldn't it? They've had all the best coaches run through, etc., through all the junior grades. All you've got to do is manage them at that senior level, yeah?
No, mate, the only difference between under 6 and a 26-year-old is I can swear at the 26-year-old.
And not feel bad about it. Yeah.
Look, I agree with Jack. I think over-coaching or doing too much with the kids too early is a big issue. I've been here a few months and I've seen the kids at sort of the junior level. Been down and watched some of the academy sessions and done some of the coaches for the level 3 guys and things like that. And there's a huge lack of some basic skills that, if a kid comes into an academy, he should be able to catch, pass and tackle. That's not me burning.
Nice.
So, Sam, if you start rolling over, we'll know you've had a pranger on.
I was reversing.
No, you're reversing. So, that's the big thing. Just, at that junior level, they come out of sort of 10s into 11s into 12s. They should have the basic catch pass, basic tackling skills. And, it could only be not enough time spent on it or people identifying the proper way to actually execute the skill in terms of doing it. I can probably give you a good example. Years ago, I coached with Dan Staines, who's a former rugby league international, and his lads were at the school where my lads were at, and he took on the coaching role, and he came to me and he said, "Brown," he said, I got no idea the way this game's played, and I said, "Mate, it's under 8s, right? And he said, all I'm going to do is teach him how to tackle and teach him how to catch pass," and those kids scored try after try after try because they just picked up the ball and ran with it. And then when the other team got it, they tackled it. And, I had other coaches going, trying to get them to bridge over the ball or do a whole of these other things. And those kids went all the way through, right through to their senior years with really good tackling skills because they picked it up at, 8s and 9s. So, I think we sort of need to, I don't know if anybody's had a look at the new curriculum that Rugby Australia's put out in terms of stuff and sort of saying what the kids should be able to do at the different age groups.
Yep.
I think that's really important that we just stick to that.
I floated a couple of questions to Dane earlier by email, and that sort of plays into one of the questions, which is, I think a lot of it is junior coaches don't spend the time understanding the trajectory of a youth rugby player and where they need to end up by the time they get to under 13s and they start leaving and coming into things like academies. They tend to try and want to cram it all in at the start. And as you say, we're talking over coaching. Sandy, you mentioned session plans in your session with Dane on last Thursday. But I think integral to that is knowing where you want the kids to end up. For example, I've always approached it by way of saying, if I were inheriting this group of players as next year's coach, what would I want them to have? And that's my blueprint for what I need to teach the kids this year. And it's that simple.
I think that also then comes down to that knowing the skill level of the coach, as you were saying, Ian. Like, it's hard for those coaches who are new to they're not identifying what the lack of skill is for those players, are they?
No.
So then us to assist them on the ground as to how to upskill, how to identify it, rather than what to coach per se, but identifying it as first battle. The resources are out there to learn it. Most people can look at it and learn it, but it's identifying it. And like you said, Sam, is putting that together for the long-term development of a player.
But that then, Dano, plays into one of the other questions I sent you is, if that's the case, is there an argument to keep junior age grade coaches in that age grade for more than 1 year, because most dad coaches do under 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s and follow their son up. Is there an argument to say junior coaches should be 24 to 36 month posts in that age so they can learn and consolidate and add value to the players they're coaching?
What do you guys think?
The problem you got with that is that, the dads want to stay with their kids. That's the biggest problem.
Admittedly, yeah.
That's your biggest problem. And, we've had a policy in the past, and in one of the schools I was coaching at, where they were only allowed to coach the kids for 2 years.
Yep.
And they could have them for 2 years, and then they could take a different role in the team, but someone else had to come on board to do it. So you had that rotation going through, and you didn't have. We even did that even at the rep level. The rep coach could only have them for 2 years because you didn't want them sort of being. You wanted them to see different coaches. Yeah.
But leaving the dad factor out of it, taking that dynamic out of it, and I accept that's the reality. That's the reality of the parent coach. But taking that out of it, is that a good idea? Is that what we want?
Could we find people that could fit that? I don't know. Like, could we go outside that? Are there Prem's players or something that could fill that role within the club that aren't attached to a kid?
Yeah, one of the ideas that we come up with this year as well, and obviously being involved with the academies and that, and seeing what you get, which is a so-called top of the line state player, and they can't catch and pass. Having been involved with that 18s group for the last couple of years, I think clubs need to take a little bit of onus on this themselves as well. I mean, it's not always easy, but we decided back at this year, we put our first senior academy together last year, and it was quite successful. But again, we were teaching them, kids that have played 10 years of footy at Pally, to basically catch and pass, do all the basics again. That's why we wanted to have that coaches forum so that we can really focus on these skills. But we also use it as a coach education point of view as well. So part of our, we've got 8 kids in our senior academy now. Part of their agreement to be in our academy is they have to coach juniors. So we put them through their level 1 or level O or whatever their foundation courses at the start of the year. And then they go and actually they'll assist the other junior coaches from 6 all the way through. So on a Tuesday night, the idea was that they go and spend, our halfback who's there, he might go and spend, time with the 10s and 11s for, on Tuesday night, and go back with the 6s and 8s on a Thursday night or something like that. But the idea was to also try and, start that coach education as well for guys that were interested in doing that. We've got a couple of Prems players that are doing it as well. So we put them through that foundation course, and we've put them into assist new coaches. So I think we had 4 new dad coaches that come on board this year. So what we've tried to do is align them. We asked them about their experience. So it was all about trying to put the right staff with the right guys as well. So for example, we've got a new under 12 coach this year. A lot of wealth of experience, never coached before, always played in the backs. And one of our props from Prem grade, he wants to get into coaching. He's about 24, good kid. So a natural alignment. We put him in there to help him with his forwards and things like that. But so it's not just. It wasn't about just the player development. I think it's important that coach education is super important too. I think that's an area we really miss out on. The better our coaching, we can get, obviously the better kids we're going to get. So we really sort of plan for a long-term plan, not rather than just how do we fix it over the next 12 months. And that was the key part of getting these younger guys in, and these guys that might show a bit of interest. And we did the foundation courses and that, as at the club, which was, I think a little bit easier for the guys. They got to come in on a Saturday, get it all done, which seemed to work pretty well. So obviously I said, we never seen the outcomes yet, because that was all at the start of this year, and it was all new to us as well. But that was sort of the idea, and the ideas behind doing that. So try and utilise it as both, yes, player development, but also really importantly, coach education as well.
Jack, as part of that, have you identified from those coaches what their aspirations are? Have you identified that as part of any succession plan for them?
Yeah, mate. No, we actually sent down. So I sent out a template to all the new coaches that wanted to come on board and just start, and basically got it's just a simple questionnaire. You know, what age group you want to do. You know, what your background is, what you've done, and things like that. We were really fortunate this year that we had an overwhelming, number of people that wanted to coach juniors. To the extent I actually held interviews for a few age groups. Like that's, so look, that's unbelievable. So
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But and I've never seen that before. Normally, obviously, you're chasing junior coaches, but we, like everyone that applied, we ended up obviously, fitting into the role somewhere. We never knocked anyone back. But yeah, look, we wanted to get an idea of where they're at. We did have an issue where we had a certain age group where a father had coached for the last 4 years, and like he was the first to put his hand up that he was probably been a little bit too one-dimensional with the boys and probably just got stuck in his ways and that, But at the same time, there was a few years there where there was no one to do the job, so that's why he's put his hand up. So, but he's been really good. Like he knows a lot of the kids, and he wanted to stay involved as a coach. So we asked him like if he would drop back a year, and basically because he knew a lot of the kids that were playing in the lower grades, because they would obviously come up and help. The better kids were coming up and helping his team. So he went back and he didn't want to be a head coach, but he's come back and done an assistant coach with one of the new dads and that. So I think the staff modelling and understanding your staff is pretty important as well, because it's like any operation, like any job environment, guys. It's not just rugby, like the better setup that you've got with your staff and the organisation, and the better model you've got, I think you're going to be more successful. But no, definitely, Sam. We spent quite a lot of time over the Chrissy break just having a chat, having a beer with the guys, seeing where they were at and what they wanted to do. I think that's my family doing something again. Hopefully someone will come and get it in a minute.
I've got to find out whether Sam's home yet or he's just driving around the block.
Doesn't want to go.
Mate, I've got four boys at home who are missing rugby. If I go home, you're not going to hear or see me. Trust me.
So you are going around the block.
Yeah.
I guess.
So back on.
Sorry, you go, Sandy.
No. So just back onto keeping coaches, particularly in the junior space. If we had set formats that were aligned with the ARU curriculum, i.e. along the lines of the matrix, would that be easier for them to then stay in that age group rather than progress on because they know that their kids are going to be getting a better level of education or coaching as it progresses?
Yeah, look, I'd agree with that. But again, I think the observation is you're fighting a parent's natural desire to spend time with their kids. I mean, the ideal candidate is the parent who's seen his kids go through, maybe is an ex-senior coach or doesn't want the pressure and hassle of coaching premiers or reserves, loves coaching juniors and is happy. I mean, Jock Tiernan, love him or hate him, is a perfect example down at the Lions for us. No kids involved, happy to stay in the Colts, quality coach, happy for him to stay there. We know the kids are getting a quality education. So unless you're in a situation where you've got a coach like me who has multiple kids and they undertake to stay in the one age group for each of those kids, I think it's problematic. The natural tension of wanting to coach your kids is problematic for that, Sandy. But I agree in theory with that matrix. A parent could be confident that they would see that the kids aren't going to be missing out if they go to coach Joe Bloggs next year. Yeah,
I look, coming from a parent who's coached their own kids, worst mistake ever, I do find that they, particularly my two, was, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about, etc., and they just fitted in with the group and what was going on. It's difficult to coach your own kids.
Is one of the other issues we're going to find as we go forward in the next few years is with junior games being played at different venues. So 12s could be played at a club where 13s could be played at another club, just depending on who you're versing. I think that's probably one of the other issues we'll face if we had parents staying with the same age group. Because when it was all at Britannia or Curtin, you could probably get away with it. People might stay in the same venue. Where if they're kind of rushing from venue to venue, that's where I think we'll probably run into trouble with it.
Yeah, you're going to lose kids from that.
Yeah, or parents or coaches.
Oh, yeah, probably more coaches, I'd say.
Yeah, I've seen where they've split the venues. You know, they have that carnival atmosphere by having all the teams playing at the one venue. But then when there became many kids, they split it to two venues, and they put two venues sort of nearby to one another. So two clubs nearby to one another, and they host all the games on that particular day. And the carnival atmosphere was the key that got them, because it's not only fun for the kids, but it's fun for the parents as well. And I've seen soccer where they play, you know, just it is in venues, and you turn up and there's one game going on, and you know, and it's as boring as batshit, you know, and there's no atmosphere at all. So I'd certainly encourage a carnival type setup for at least up to under 12s.
So we used to have that at Curtin as Britannia. That was a staple, but from a cost perspective, that's Curtin was way more expensive than Britannia. So done away with that, unfortunately, in one regard. But in the other regard, putting games back at clubs and having more people at club from a revenue perspective is good.
Yep.
But yeah, sort of trying to find that balance. And I guess you've been through it for a while, Sam, with that, and seen the evolution of that, which hopefully this year was going to be the first year. But yeah, it is a challenge. And as Ali said, that's where we're going to probably lose a few people if we want them to stay, if they're playing a different venue.
Well, Alistair raises a really valid point, but the other valid point is, you know, we're dealing in a minority sport in a city that has the north-south spread of Los Angeles, from Joondalup and Butler all the way down to, you know, Mandurah for junior sport. And that's just a real factor that we have to somehow deal with. You know, so I agree. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. I love the fact that at those Joey carnivals, as they used to be called, you know, you'd go together and you'd play teams you didn't otherwise normally play. But look, travel is just a factor that we have to deal with. You know, we're up against it any which way you cut it in terms of retention.
Yeah.
Who'd be a bloody rugby coach?
Guys, just on that as well, like I know Ian touched on it, like that carnival atmosphere and that, like back when I was on the East Coast and like they used to have it with the Shoot Shield. They used to call it a Super Saturday, and each team you'd only get 3 Super Saturdays, you know, each year. But and obviously it's very hard with the logistics here and that to organise. But if you can, it makes for a massive day. And the idea of the Super Saturday is you have all your teams, juniors and seniors, if you've got the facilities, obviously, to play at the one ground. And it capped off, you know, you have your main game, obviously, as your highlight game. But it was a huge, and like Ian said, it creates that carnival experience. You've got, you know, for the teams that have got 2 or 3 fields, you've got all your juniors and that playing, then your Colts, and then obviously you lead in your women, and then come into your reserve grade and first grade. So by the time you've got reserve grade playing, you know, you've got quite a few hundred people, and then, you know, possibly, you know, here, I think if done on the right way, it'd be obviously hard to organise. You could get 1,000 people at a home game, you know, and because it's not every weekend, you know, like it might only be, you know, realistic to do it here once. But I think if you could organise, and I think the majority of the clubs have got probably the facilities to do it, you know, where you probably only need at least a minimum of 2 fields. But, you know, obviously it's a big day, but like Ian said, I'm a huge supporter. I seen it back on the East Coast when I was with Randwick, and it was everyone would hang out for that day. Like when you got the draw at the start of the season, you were like, oh, where are our Super Saturdays? You know, who are we playing? And it was just a great atmosphere and a killer day.
Yeah. I think it's got. I think that's the way it needs to go. Coming from South Africa myself, and knowing, like, you're there from 7 a.m. in the morning all the way till 5 p.m. watching rugby, like that was a dream for me as a kid. So it would be awesome to have that here. And I know, like, logistics from different clubs having different age groups and not having age groups and Colts, and yeah, it throws a bit of a tiz. But I think it's an aim that we need to have. I guess with that, from a development point of view, and I'll probably touch on a little bit of stuff that I'm trying to research, is what is it that you guys know that or think that development team is doing well or not doing well, to facilitate or assist your club getting players, retaining players? What are some of the things that we are and aren't doing? Because that's where we need to go with it and work together as club and state body to change what's declining.
How long we got?
Mate, just throw it at me. Give me
Bring
the
it on.
brutal. Give me the
Bring it
brutal.
on, Jack.
No, look.
Do you want to ask us a question that actually has an answer that we can answer politely?
No, I don't want the polite answer. We've already spoken to 2 clubs, and they literally pumped up our tires. It's not what I want to hear. I want to hear what we're not doing and the stuff that you guys think will help your club, but then how we can work together. Because at the moment, how it sort of is, and I guess if I'm being honest, is like we sort of trying to do the work for the clubs to recruit and get players to the club. But then, there's some clubs that do that really well and welcome those players, other clubs that just don't do it. So, if we're pushing that.
On a sort of without notice type scenario, one of the things that I've always relished, not necessarily as a player, but as a coach, is feedback. And I think it's really important that coaches be encouraged to have a growth mindset. They've got to be open to feedback. The problem is, I don't think, unless clubs are lucky enough to have coaching coordinators or directors of rugby that go down, I think one of the things that could be better supported is maybe training up some coach educators within the club, and I don't know whether this is part of your plans, that are identified to rookie coaches as mentors in a formalised strategy. Now, people will gravitate to whoever they want to gravitate to, that's fine, but if they know there's a resource, that there's a level 3 coach within the club that is happy to come down to the under 7s on a Saturday at 8 o'clock in Mandurah and just watch me, and give me some feedback. Because half the time dads don't know whether they're getting it right or they're getting it wrong. And they learn the hard way, which is when a dissatisfied parent comes up and says, little Johnny didn't do this or little Johnny didn't do that. Well, the horse has already bolted then. And on top of which, most of the rookie coaches might not have the skills to deal with that situation. And unfortunate as it is, that's part of coaching. And that can be a taught skill. So I would like to see some investment in whether the club has to put up a person for this, or people just volunteer, or even if it's DOs spending more of their time, on a Saturday doing that type of role.
Yep. Ian, you're working with as a mentor to those level 3 coaches.
Yeah.
How much of that at the moment is sort of for those coaches to go back to their clubs and be mentors for other coaches at the moment? Is that part of that?
Well, look, I'm not sure. I mean, the sort of the role at the moment with the coaches is to get them to coach better. Not necessarily about specifically what they're coaching, but how they're coaching and how they're delivering it. Well, that's what they've been asking for. But I think a head coach or a coaching coordinator in a club would be a great idea. Really, if you've got someone who could take on that particular role and has got the experience to do it, to go down and basically just make sure all the coaches have got a plan in place and how they're going with it and what their expectations are and so on. There's probably another side we probably haven't touched on a little bit. And it's not just the skill development with the kids, but it's the social and mental development as well, and understanding where the kids are. And I think, if parents can think that they're, why the kids there? Well, the first one is that they're there to have fun and have a game with their mates. There's no question about that. The next side to that is that, if the kids believe that by playing rugby they're going to grow up to be better kids, then how the coach is being involved in terms of doing that as well.
With your side, Jack, what was the plan this year? Was there potentially any of that sort of assistance to those junior coaches ongoing before everything got derailed?
Yeah, well, look, we were pretty fortunate that I was put on as director of rugby there, and purely what Ian just said, Dan, that was pretty much my role.
Yeah, cool.
To go down there, spend, the afternoons when there are trainings on a Tuesday, Thursday, just pretty much walking around, helping the guys out, letting them know that we're there, their support, if they needed a hand or a question or whatever, or if they wanted, if there was a certain skill set or something that they weren't overly confident in coaching, just put your hand up, ask me, I'll come down, or I'll get, one of the senior coaches or someone with experience to come down and run that session. It's just, basically being on the ground and helping out. So, look, we got to do it for a fair bit, and it worked. It seemed to be working quite well. We definitely got a real positive sort of feedback in regards to doing it. But when we had that sort of coaches forum and got together, that's basically all they asked for. They said, "God, there was a lot of new guys that had only been coaching a year or two." They said, "Look, if we could have that, that'll be all we want, because there's some things that they're just not confident in." And a lot of the times, I spoke to the guys and I said, "Well, what's something that you're not confident in coaching?" And it might be just a generic tackle. And I said, "Well, how are you coaching it?" And 90% of it was right, but they just didn't actually have the confidence in themselves to, they thought, the higher you go up, it gets so much more technical and things like that. Like, I think we polish off our 1%ers a little bit more, obviously, the higher you go up, and things like that. But, at the end of the day, a lot of the skill sets are, can be very, very generic. And I just think that's what I was talking about before. We overcoach them. Just before I go, guys, I know you asked one of my opinions in terms of what you guys are doing with development. I'm probably speaking more of an academy point of view here, but obviously having coming out of helping with that academy the last few years and then just going back to the club. One of the reasons I stepped back to just doing the club was to try and align them a lot more closer to what Rugby WA are doing. I found that there was quite a big separation. What a club's idea of academy or so-called high performance was, compared to when they actually got there. So one part, I think, and I think I brought this up with Ando a few weeks ago. One thing that I'd probably like to see when things get up and running again is either one of two ideas. Get an academy session to come down to a club. Especially for those clubs that have got academies, come down and run like what you guys are running with, either in conjunction or bring. For example, our senior academy, we only got 8 boys in us. Get them to come down to your session. So not only that is, I think it's a win-win for everyone, but it also helps, the clubs. They see you guys are coming and giving back. It's, you're getting involved with the club. It shows that, you're potentially looking at identification of players, you're actually getting out with the clubs. But I think the big thing is it just shows that you've been there. Look, I've only been obviously over here for 2 years, as but from an outside point, person coming in, there just seems to be, there's this perception of it's us versus them sort of thing, and I've got to see it obviously being involved with the WA side as well and at club, but how we break that down, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's one thing that I think just being on the ground, but, doing things, it might only be once every 3 months or something, you guys bring one of your coaches over and runs a session, one of your academy coaches over and he runs our academy session for the afternoon, or like I said, bring them into you guys, and plus those kids that are in academy, obviously they're there because they've got potential, so they should be probably on the radar for you guys as well, and then they get to see I'm only in the club academy here at the moment, this is why I'm here, I need to be doing this better to get into that that WA academy. But just I think just a little bit more communication and probably being seen, I think is going to help.
That's a big one. Awesome. Jack, I know you got to shoot, so I'll give you a bit of time to go now and get ready for the next one. But thanks for tonight.
Yeah, no, awesome, guys. Good little chat.
Yeah, a little bit different to what we had planned, but no, very, very useful. So thanks, Jack.
Thanks very much, Jack. Appreciate it.
See you.
Yeah, mate.
Dane, I've got some. I've managed to get sorted. I think if you can hear me properly.
Yes, I can.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, cool. Obviously, for those who don't know my experience, I was a development officer with Scottish Rugby for 10 years, and then was an academy coach in one of the regions and linked with Glasgow Warriors for 8-9 years, and recently moved here and obviously kind of doing the state 16s. A lot of kind of what I've seen in the short period of time are kind of very similar issues and challenges that dealt with in the last 20 years in Scottish Rugby. kind of region that I looked after, we weren't the top sport. Soccer was top sport. All the perception was that all the funding, all the best players, all the focus was on the Central Belt, which I see very similar to kind of Western Australia. The perception that East Coast's more important than the West Coast. So I've seen a lot of challenges and very similar. And kind of looking at some of the kind of challenges, and one of the things that probably about 4 years ago, we developed, Scottish Rugby developed a technical blueprint, which is probably very similar to the kind of skills system that's just been put out. And that was basically the curriculum from coming into rugby at the very bottom, right the way through to the national team. Obviously, the Gregor Townsend, who was at Glasgow at the time, and Vern Cotter was at Scotland, and the kind of the pro coaches, the national age group coaches all fed into it. And that's basically used to deliver coach education, club school links, the academy system, and all the way through. And you're always referring to certain themes. And I think that would certainly be something that will develop, and I could see how it can develop over time. Now we've got that curriculum and you've got that framework to try and sell right the way through, and make everyone, people in club and school land, feel part of feeding into the Wallabies, which is ultimately, I can see why we're trying to do it. And kind of one other point round about the coaches, I was thinking in terms of your younger age groups, and try to group them, try and get 3 age groups working together. And if you're talking about the dad that wants to move through age 3 through with his kids, if he turns up on a Saturday morning, he'll coach 3 different age groups. You might just coach them catch pass, because he knows about catching and passing. And as you talk about, Ian, they're time poor. So if they only have to focus on one skill, one practice, one game, and they deliver it 3 times on a Saturday morning, and that's all they focus on, they're going to become really good at that. The kids are going to get a really good experience in that skill as well, instead of the parent, and exactly the same in Scotland, mums, dads turn up on a Sunday morning, Saturday morning, very limited time to prep and making things up. A lot of them have not really played the sport either, and so the information, the kind of the fault correction, their ability to develop the skill, they struggle with because they don't know. They haven't had time to prepare. Whereas if they're only looking after one skill, there's potential there that they could become good at it. I think it was something that Mick Byrne mentioned on Tuesday night with the kind of honest thing there is like, give coach something you're passionate about. And then that's back to the kind of question, what do you want? What do you know about it? What do you want to learn about? What do you want to go and research and dig into? And that probably makes it easier from a coach education and a development officer supporting a coach. What do you, and being in that position, go down to the club, what can I help you with? Up to you. We need help with everything. It's like, yeah.
Colin, I think one of the other big problems that we have as coaches is, I don't think our junior coaches, particularly at a younger age, actually spend enough time watching other coaches. They spend a lot of time watching other players. They spend a lot of time watching Scotland versus New Zealand or whoever, and thinking, yeah, no, we're going to do that in the under-9s. No, you're not. The kids don't have it. That's overcoaching.
Yeah.
But what they don't spend is they don't spend time sitting behind the reserves box at a Premier Grade game, watching the club coach. Or what we did 2 years ago was we paired up our 9s, 10s and 11s. So we had our 9s, we gave our 9s to our 10s coach, and our 9s coach became our 10s coach under assistant for that week. And both teams trained together. And then the next week, we put the 10s in with the 11s. So the more junior coach was the more senior coach's assistant for that week. And then that became self-perpetuating. The coaches then started doing that themselves. So they started learning from the guys immediately above them. What that actually fed into, we found, was the coaches were then picking 5 or 6 of the best kids that had the potential to play up and be exposed to the next year, a year in advance. And they were reserving for the team above them, which was a wonderful result. But I think part of the problem that coaches is, we spend a lot of time watching players, but we don't spend enough time watching coaches, because you learn so much just by watching. We don't do it.
And I think if you're talking about that, even mixing the age groups, and I think somebody touched earlier about the leadership and the development of that, and not just the rugby skills, developing the person. And again, if you've got your 3 age groups and they all mix, and then naturally within that group, there's going to be the older kid who's got more experience, who's going to develop that skill of helping somebody who's less experienced or less confident. I think we want to challenge leadership a lot, but they're all getting the same information. They're all the same age. We're trying to make them all leaders within a team, and we know there are natural leaders in the team, and you can't have 15 leaders on the pitch. It just doesn't work like that. It becomes a mess where if they get that experience by basically feeding information down the way. So, and again, as a coach, you can empower the kind of older players in your groups. I want you to encourage getting your hands up to the target. That's your focus, or you're in charge of making sure the team communicate and call, and if it goes quiet, they find the ways to do that. So as a coach, you're just trying to make yourself redundant, get yourself out of there, so everyone else can.
That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate goal of a coach, isn't it? You become superfluous to player development.
Yeah, lean on the bar and watch them out the window. Perfect.
Oh, I'm there.
Sandy, any questions that you had on any of that?
No, coaching I think is the best way broken down when we're all working as a team, and that involves, as you guys have touched on, involving from 6 up to 12, and that was the age bracket that this was all about. Bringing them together, sharing their ideas, and making that transition, even if it is aligned with that matrix that Rugby AU have, so that we have a blueprint as they go from year to year to year, and it makes it a simple process and a lot less daunting for the younger coaches, because I know it's a difficult space to be in.
And look, and if you have that in a format that's you can provide it to others, sometimes you get the parents come down and go, oh, we should be doing that, or we should be doing this, and you go and sort of say, well, look, this is why we do it, this is the what, this is the why, which is to do it, this is how we do it, and this is the outcome in terms of what we want. And I've seen for years coming through junior age groups who you have the kids that go through and they start winning at under 10s, and they win every game from 10s, 11s, 12s, and it's all about winning and all that sort of stuff, and the parents on the sideline are a nightmare because they're the best team in the world. By the time they get under 15s, under 16s, those teams don't exist anymore. So I think it's really critical you understand why you do what you do when you do it at different age groups, and you have it in a way where not only the kids don't care, they just want to go and have fun, but the parents at that stage should understand why you're doing what at each particular age group, and it's done for a reason,
So yeah, absolutely. So what's going to make it easier for these younger age group coaches to want to stay in that role and to want to share their knowledge from a coach's perspective that's been there?
Well, it's interesting. You got to find out why they're there. A lot of them aren't there to become career coaches. They're there because they might have played before and they want to spend some time with their kids. They might have been because the club presidents tapped them on the shoulder and said, mate, we need your help. Can you coach this year? I think we've got to find out the why, in terms of there. And not all coaches are, want to be there in 10 or whatever years' time, they want to give something back, but, and it all depends on what their work situation is and all sorts of other things in terms of doing it. So you need to sort of pick the coach, I think, in terms of why they're there.
I think from a junior perspective, and part of it, and Sandy mentioned it, is you're not there to coach the parents, but in many respects, if you want the parents to bring the kids along, you are.
Yeah.
So you need parental engagement, and I think a lot of coaches don't deal well with that because they're there to coach kids. You need a pretty strong committee structure, or you need a toe cutter in your club that's going to come and run interference for you, whether it's your junior VP, your director of rugby, your head coach, or whoever, or your team manager, whatever. But I've found in 8 years of coaching juniors, that we had team meetings with parents at the pre-season, and we produced an absolute comprehensive team booklet that set out at the start of the year, this is what I'm doing. This is what the outcomes we're looking. This is my expectations of you as a parent. Happy to have your engagement, but don't come up to me at halftime when I'm coaching the kids.
And you had you had a lot less complaints as a result. Yes.
Well, I did have in the early days, no.
Yeah.
But then you tend to winnow the chaff from the wheat, and they don't stay.
Yeah.
But at the end, it becomes self-perpetuating. You get a reputation as a guy who's got firm parameters and is fair, and will give the kids and parents a fair hearing and a fair go, and people can respect that and work with it, and you become the architect of your own success in some results in that case. Yeah. But you've got to be true to it. You can't have double standards, and that I think is part of it. It's authenticity and consistency. I think really key.
Yeah. I think one of the interesting things in terms of the kids come along at 6s and 7s, and they're forming their friendship groups as young kids, but the parents are also forming friendship groups as well. Yeah. I remember my brother going through, and he's an anaesthetist on the Gold Coast, and he sort of said, look, my best friends aren't other anaesthetists and other doctors. He said, my best friends are the parents of the kids that my kids played sport with. After the game, all the parents get together, the kids get together, and we used to end up at somebody's place for a barbecue in the afternoon. The kids were all running around going mad. The parents were having a great time. The mums are having too much to drink, and the dads had to drive home. And then they form those social groups, and then those teams stay together because the kids want to be together and the parents want to be together. We used to every year, early in the season, we used to have a beach training session with each of the teams, and the role of those, and have a barbecue afterwards. And the role of that particular one, we used to say to the parents, your role as old parents is to welcome the new parents in and make them feel welcome. And we used to have parents come up time after time that they'd moved from interstate, and they'd said, if it hadn't been for rugby, we don't know how we would have settled in. The kids are having such a good time, and we're having such a good time. And as Sam sort of said before, our numbers in terms of players used to increase year by year, as it comes through. So, it is difficult. The parent role in that younger age group is difficult, but it's definitely a component, I think, that needs to be considered.
I think part of it also is, you mentioned the teams that when they fall apart, you need to start from a position at that early age group of what your values are. It's an easy word to throw out there. It's easy to say, but you need to instill in the kids, because if you go to the parents, I'm not teaching your kids rugby. I'm teaching your kids respect through rugby. And you develop that theme, there's no parent in the world that's not going to get on board and support that. Or if they are, they're a crap parent, they shouldn't be in the fucking game anyway.
And you don't want them anyway.
That's it.
Sandy, you were going to jump in?
Look, I was just going to probably tie that back to just making the process, particularly with pre-planned session plans and all those sort of things, make that process easier for our junior coaches. And that's what we were literally talking about.
Yep.
Yeah. It means they don't have to reinvent the wheel, Sandy, and they're just putting the cherry on top if they need to.
Yep. Oh, look, and we're not in any way, shape or form telling coaches how to coach. That's a baseline. You coaches are going to create, adapt, and do whatever they think is necessary for the people that got on the paddock.
Yeah. That's awesome, guys. Cheers for the chat. I know, again, it was very different to what we had planned around getting questions from community coaches at those specific levels who haven't coached before.
Have you got any here?
Well, lots. But yeah, I think that was very valuable for us as well. Sandy and I were putting together or researching some things around what the community's doing and what clubs are doing. And like I said, we've spoken to 2 clubs already that a little bit of pumped our tires up a bit. And what we want to get down to is what is it that the club needs, what the clubs are doing, and how then we can just, come in and do a little bit. But the clubs are the ones that are know what's going on. Ian, you touched on, you go, and Jack around, they had their sessions with the coaches, they did that, and for us, now we take away, and my probably big takeaway from that is we can help align a curriculum that makes it easy for the coaches that are new, and provide a framework for the club. Well, bang, Jack club's already there.
Yeah.
We're just assisting. So that's where we would want, and would love for you guys to share that with other clubs. And maybe we can look at a forum where we can get that together and say, again, it's about the rugby, it's about the community rather than Pally winning or Southern Lions winning or Basie winning. It's all about those kids coming through. The better they are, the better that rugby is going to be for Australia in the long term. So that's the only goal that I guess we're looking at, aren't we?
Yeah. Years ago, I saw Surf Lifesaving Queensland do a real interesting thing. They had at the end of the season, it was during the surf off season. They had a almost like a conference, but what they did was they had they got all the presidents together in one particular group and talked to them about people management, and getting new volunteers and all that sort of stuff. They got the club treasurers together and they did work on finances and all the financial issues in terms of doing it. They got club coaches together in different age groups, and they had this whole thing where everybody came in together, and you had some few guest speakers in terms of doing it. And it was amazing, because you had every stakeholder there, everybody interested in terms of doing a particular thing, everybody walking out going, I really got something out of that, and a few guest speakers on the whole lot. Never managed to do it, locally on the Sunshine Coast when I was up there, but it worked really well for surf lifesaving.
I guess that's also where, Sam, you made the point right at the start, is the best resources are the people in your club.
Yeah.
One year above you. And if you couple age groups together, like Colin, you said, it's coupling them together, but instead of coupling the players together, I think I'm trying to just think about how that would work, but coupling those coaches together in forums is the key, isn't it? Under 6 coach with under 7 coach in a big forum, talking about rugby and what they've done this year, and then 6 coach can go away and say, all right, that's what I need to get the kids to. As we've just said, the curriculum is the key as long term. So really appreciate the time, gents, tonight. And won't keep you too much longer. But again, probably a few things from me is, if there's anybody at your club that we can chat to, and I know I've spoken to you, Sam, already about talking to Sandra down there, just if there's anybody that is keen to chat about development, and I'm talking about like us going to schools and rugby rules and those sort of development activities, and their feedback to us as Rugby WA, what's worked, what hasn't, just shoot them my way. Even if you've got the detail, send it to me and I'll contact them. Yeah. Just trying to really put together on and build a plan that, as we said, as Jack said, he's come in with a perception and seen the perception of it, Rugby WA and the club, us versus them. I'm trying to bring that, we're trying to bring that all together and really get the club's feedback on, if we're doing something shit, we're doing something shit, even if it's just one club that says it, but I need to know. And then we can build a plan together with those clubs. And I'll say Kalamunda as an example is the big plan that they actually came away with out of our chat was they needed someone on the ground that actually recruits for juniors. They've got a recruitment person, but that's only senior driven, actually not even looking at the junior space. And they were like, geez, that's not good for our club. So we're going to work with them to get a development officer, somebody in there that can really be paid to do that as their role. That is their club person, not a Rugby WA person driving Kalamunda recruitment. So yeah, if there's anything in that development space that you guys have feedback on for us as development officers, Colin, it'd be great to probably call you and have a chat about what you did in Scotland, because yeah, you've been there, what's working, what doesn't. So I'll touch base with you, but yeah, Sam and Ian, if there's any feedback that you have or any people we can talk to specifically that you think will be good for us to hear their thoughts, let us know. Sandy and myself, if you want to chat to them.
I think probably just one I just thinking off the top of my head here is that sending that information, putting it back on the clubs. I know that's a challenge. The next phase, the clubs are really busy, they're volunteers, and they see Rugby WA as the paid people, the professional body, and they should be running rugby. And there's an element of running rugby in there, but there's an element of they don't know what you're trying to do. So it's trying to get that
how do the RugbyWA promote to clubs? This is what we do. This is the time we have to support you. We can, for example, say we can give you 10 of our hours this season, and you tell us what you want us to do with that 10 hours.
Yeah.
And then can I go into some sort of agreement, right? We'll do 10 hours of this, and that will, if it works, and kind of give them, you've got to support in this way and that way. And we kind of did it with kind of primary schools. Like, I'll come into primary school, but I'm not just going to come in 6 weeks and coach for 6 weeks and then go away and you never do any more rugby. We'll come in for 6 weeks over a 12-week period. I'll deliver a session week 1, class teacher, primary teacher. You deliver the same session the next week. I'll come in week 3 and deliver session 2. And then if you do that in a group of schools, and it's like, and you must bring all your kids to the festival at the end, sort of thing. So it's offering something, but they tell you what they want, and I add some caveats to the side of it, and just getting that trading side of things.
Yeah.
I mean, you could even do it on a quid pro quo. We'll give you 10 hours of our time, but we need each of your coaches to give us 10 hours of coaching development time.
Yeah.
You know, that seems like a fair deal.
Totally.
You know.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, gents, thank you so much. I'll touch base with you, Colin. Well, Sandy and I will.
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
For your time tonight, gents. Much appreciated.
Thanks very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Bye.
Talk soon.
Yeah, boys.
See you guys. Thank you.